They all ignored him until the day a black general walked into the school and saluted him. What happened next stunned the entire student body and changed one boy's life forever. Nobody noticed Jamal Taylor at Jefferson High School. He was a shadow, quiet, lanky, always tucked into the corner of the classroom or the back of the cafeteria. He walked with his head down, his old hoodie 2 sizes too big, and his eyes rarely made contact with anyone. Teachers called his name like they didn't expect an answer. Students passed him in the halls as if he didn't exist. No one asked why he always carried his sketchbook. No one saw the bruises that weren't from sports. No one cared that he walked for miles to school because his mother worked night shifts, and the bus route had been canceled. In a school obsessed with athletes and social status, Jamal was just that kid, invisible, until one day everything changed. It was Veterans Appreciation Day. The school hosted a ceremony every year, but this time, the district had invited a very special guest, General Solomon Hayes, the highest-ranking black officer in state history, a decorated Marine known for turning battlegrounds into peace zones and kids into leaders. The gymnasium was packed. Rows of students fidgeted in bleachers, teachers wore red, white, and blue pins, and the JROTC cadets stood stiff in their pressed uniforms. The principal droned on about sacrifice and honor. Flags waved, trumpets played. Then General Hayes took the stage. He wasn't loud. He didn't brag. He spoke about dignity, duty, and the power of believing in people when no one else does. Then he paused, scanned the crowd, and said, "I didn't come here to speak to the popular kids. I came here to salute the ones who are surviving battles no one sees." The students looked around, confused. Then General Hayes did something no one expected, something that silenced the entire gym. He stepped down from the podium, walked through the crowd, past the athletes, past the student council, past the kids who always got recognized. And he walked straight toward Jamal. The room froze. Jamal blinked, unsure what was happening. Everyone turned to look, and then the general saluted him. A sharp, respectful, deliberate salute, like Jamal was a soldier who had just returned home from war. "You remind me of me," General Hayes said, loud enough for the entire school to hear. "You've been fighting every day, and nobody saw. But I do." You could hear the air leave the room. Some students looked stunned. Others looked ashamed. And Jamal. He stood up slowly, uncertain, but something in him straightened. His shoulders pulled back. He looked the general in the eye, and he returned the salute. What happened next was something no one could have predicted. One by one, the JROTC cadets broke ranks and walked over to Jamal. They stood around him, not to block him, but to stand with him. The school's head football player put his hand on Jamal's shoulder. The art teacher started crying. Even the principal stood and clapped. By the end of the day, Jamal's name was echoing in the halls, not as a ghost, but as someone people finally saw. He got a feature in the school paper. His sketchbook full of heartbreaking, powerful portraits of students and teachers was displayed in the library. The school board offered him a scholarship to study art and leadership. General Hayes kept in touch, mentoring him every month. Jamal was no longer invisible. He was respected. He was seen, and most importantly, he was believed in. Because sometimes, all it takes is one salute to tell the world, he matters. And when the right person sees you, the whole world can change, Chagd said, the Monday after the assembly. Jefferson High felt different. Jamal walked through the front doors, and for the first time in his life, someone held it open for him. Not just someone, Marcus Kent, the quarterback who hadn't said more than 2 words to Jamal. In 3 years, this time, he gave him a nod. In first period, the teacher, Mr. Lawson, who used to skip over Jamal during class discussions, paused mid-roll call. "Jamal Taylor," he said. Then, softer, "Glad you're here." Students looked up from their phones. A few even clapped, but the real moment came during lunch. Jamal usually sat alone at the edge of the cafeteria near the trash cans, scribbling in his sketchbook. But when he got there, the table was already taken by 3 seniors who shifted awkwardly and looked away. He turned to find somewhere else. That's when a voice called out from the middle of the room, "Yo, Jamal, come. Sit with us." It was Tash Owens, the senior class president, waving him over with a smile. Every head in the cafeteria turned. He hesitated. It felt like a setup, like some cruel joke waiting to explode. But Tasha stood and walked to him, took him by the wrist like it was no big deal, and led him across the room. "We saw your sketchbook," she said. "You're not just talented, you're brilliant." She wasn't exaggerating. After the assembly, Jamal's art had gone viral on social media. Someone had posted a picture of one of his pieces, an image of a student drowning under invisible weights labeled expectations, silence, and poverty. It struck a nerve. Hundreds of students from other schools started commenting, "This is me. How did he draw what I feel every day? Who is this artist?" Then the story broke in the local paper, from invisible to icon, the teen who moved a general. The principal had to call an emergency school board meeting not to discipline Jamal, but to nominate him for a statewide youth arts fellowship. General Hayes even wrote him a personal recommendation, calling Jamal a warrior of a different kind armed with a pencil, not a rifle. The biggest surprise came 2 weeks later. The school held an evening town hall with students, teachers, and parents. Near the end, General Hayes appeared via live stream. He asked to speak to one person, Jamal. "I've been thinking about you," the general said. "The way you stood up, not just for yourself, but for every kid who goes unnoticed. That kind of courage is what real leadership looks like." He paused, then added, "How would you feel about joining my youth leadership initiative in D.C. this summer?" The crowd gasped. Jamal's mother, who had snuck in from her third shift job, broke down in tears. Jamal went from being the kid nobody saw to the young man whose vision helped others be seen. The teachers listened more. The bullies backed off. The art club doubled in size. Even the morning announcements began with, "Today's sketch of the day," by Jamal Taylor. But Jamal never let the attention go to his head. He still walked home most days, hoodie on, sketchbook under his arm. He still stopped to help younger kids carry books, still drew in the quiet. But something had changed forever. The world had finally looked up, and in doing so, it saw a leader not because he shouted, but because he stood when no one else did. Invisible no more, Jamal Taylor became a symbol not just of talent, but of how one act of recognition can change everything. Jamal never asked for attention. He didn't chase the spotlight, beg for praise, or try to fit in. All he ever wanted was to be seen not for how loud he was, but for how deeply he felt. And in a single moment when a black general raised his hand and saluted a quiet boy with a pencil, the world was forced to ask itself, who else have we ignored? Because the truth is, every school has a Jamal. Every hallway holds a silent genius, a hidden fighter, a kid carrying invisible burdens. And maybe all they need is for someone with power to say, "I see you, you matter." So the next time you walk past someone you've never really noticed, look again. They might not wear a uniform. They might not speak much, but they might be the bravest person in the room, just like Jamal. Because heroes don't always stand on stage. Sometimes they sit quietly in the back until the world finally turns around and salutes them.